Hi there, and welcome to this YouTube series on inspired energy movement. Now, if you're not familiar with the term inspired energy movement, it's sort of a compilation of three words. And what it means is allowing your body to move itself as inspired, where the motions that you're making are not ones that you're consciously thinking about or in any way of control of. It's just a tuning into an energy and allowing the flow of movement. Now, some of the benefits of inspired energy movement are mainly that you feel really good while you're doing it, assuming you can allow it without resistance, which if you're actually experiencing the movement, then you're likely allowing it without resistance. And so for me, the greatest benefit I get is that whenever I'm out of alignment for a long period of time, whenever I'm trying too hard or can't seem to align with something I'm desiring, I'll notice that I'm not doing these movements. And it happens on rare occasions when I'm sick. I always notice there's a couple things I'm not doing. I'm not doing inspired energy movement. I'm not laughing. And I'm also not making sort of inspired sounds, which is another thing that you can allow. Another way you can allow source and energy to flow through you is just inspired sounds, where you're not in control of the sounds. You're just and whatever comes out comes out. So in this first video, we're just going to give this mild demonstration, and I'll talk about a story of when I noticed a couple stories of when I noticed huge changes because I allowed inspired energy movement. So the first instance, I was on an Abraham-Hicks Alaskan cruise, and I really have strong desire to be in the hot seat, and normally the way I go about things is I don't try to manifest things specifically, but in this case I was trying to manifest something, and so I thought of a bunch of questions that might get me up there, a bunch of things that might benefit people, and I just sort of I was confident that eventually I'd get up there or whatnot, and so I got there, and the first question asked, I put my hand up and didn't get called on, and it went on that way for a few days, where I wasn't raising my hand every time, but I was like scouring my life experience for things that might get me up into the hot seat. And even the way I'm thinking about that, I feel a little pinching off of the back of my neck. And so as I was doing that, it was like the very thing, like I was cutting myself off from my very mojo, the thing that got me to align with the cruise in the first place, and the thing that got me to resonate with the teachings in the first place, I was sort of inhibiting in my quest to get in the hot seat. So one day, probably the fourth or fifth day in, of the actual cruise, it was probably the fourth day in, and so we were a little over halfway through the 10 hours worth of Abraham seminar that we were going to do on the cruise, and I went back to my room during the break and ate some breakfast, and I started making the noises, I started making the movements, and it was like whatever I had been trying to do before had ceased enough that I could step in that I could allow forth the energy that probably been trying, the energy that's always available to me, always reaching out to me. I was able to allow it in and make the noises. And so I did that and went back for the second hour of Abraham that day, the final hour of Abraham that day, and somebody in front of me had a question that was really, it loosened something up in front of me, like it activated something within me. It activated something different than all of my previous questions that I'd been thinking of asking combined. And so I had, I'm not really going to dive into all that. I will link, some people uploaded the audio clip of me in the hot seat on there, but essentially what it did was it loosened me up from what I thought I was trying to do and allowed me to flow into what Source was calling me to become. And I think that's what inspired energy movement does. It's sort of a cessation of controlled, deliberate, tactical living of life, tactical getting ahead, logical thinking, and it's just... So another story of this is I was invited to do a speaking engagement with my old life coach teacher, and I hadn't been around and hadn't done a lot of speaking outside of my own little groups for a while, and for years actually. And so I definitely want to do a good job. So I'm like, all right, no, to do a good job, I'm going to prepare a ton, and that's how I'm going to do it. And so as I was following through on that idea that I'll prepare a ton and I'll be ready and I'll knock it out of the park, I know it, I found hesitation towards preparing for it. I already knew the topic I was talking about. I had already done a class about it for my own group, and there was an idea. I wanted to elevate it and create something that matched the group I'd be talking to, which was a group of life coaches. And so as I went about that, I just noticed that there was a strong call to procrastinate relative to this. And whenever I tried to sort of get myself to do stuff on it, it just wasn't there. And as I was contemplating it, it was like, I don't want to have to do something in order to have things work out for me. You know, Abraham teaches things are always working out for me. So I don't have to do X, Y, or Z for things to work out for me. Things will work out for me no matter what. I could show up there with zero preparation and things will work out for me. And as I, so that morning, prior to thinking that thought, I actually, for whatever reason, got struck by some inspired energy and just made some noises and got that movement and felt good again. I was like, yes, this is not about preparing for something. This is about being in alignment. If I can be in alignment when I step through those doors to give that talk, then I know things will work out swimmingly because I have alignment. I have access to the power that creates worlds. I have access to my inner being. I have access to all that I want to become and be in that experience. And so I did that movement, and I had that inspired thought about I don't want to have to prepare to do something. And then the night before the speech, I had some inspired thoughts about it. I woke up in the morning, I whipped up an outline, and when I got there to give the talk, I just threw the outline up on the board, and it was an amazing talk with just allowing the flow of interacting with other people there, and not being structured. There was no need for me to over-prepare. There was just that simple outline and a few thoughts about who I was speaking to and what would resonate with them, and it was just an amazing experience. And what allowed me to get there, the tool that allowed me to step back from my plan of, okay, this is how I'm going to get it done, and this is how I know it's going to work out well, and the thing that allowed me to take a step back from that way of thinking, which is actually me getting in my own way, was that sort of happenstance experience of, there is energy there that I don't need to control, that I can allow to flow through me, that can allow me to step into the me I'm wanting to be. And I think that's what inspired energy movement is. It's the tuning into that energy and the allowing the flow of that energy. And when you're moving to the flow of that energy, when you're moving outside your logical control, you are allowing beyond your logical knowing of yourself. You are allowing a you that is beyond your current comprehension of you. And when you're allowing noises to flow through, inspired noises, which all sorts of different noises, I'm sure we'll get to them throughout the series, but it feels liberating, it feels empowering, it feels like it's similar to perhaps like an Indian war cry or just a very like whoa, empowered sound coming out of you, and it's really energizing and really it just helps. It's just like every time I do it, it's uplifting and woo. And there are times when I'm doing sort of a different form of inspired, like if I'm in a bad place, and I'll just sort of groan or grunt or do something that allows my sort of insides to express where they are in a very general way. So it's like when I groan or I grunt, it doesn't like lead to more thoughts. Like if I were to complain about something, it might lead to more thoughts about what I'm complaining about. When I groan or I grunt, it's just like a guttural sound coming out of me that allows a release. And I think those two are inspired movements. Another example of maybe an inspired movement would be like if somebody's worried about something, they put their hand up on their heart like this. It's like they're not doing it consciously. They're not trying to do it. They're just like activating that energy of soothe my heart, because the thoughts I'm thinking might cause my heart some pain. And so they're just going to soothe it. It's the sigh of relief. All right, so this is the introduction to inspired energy movement. Didn't get to a whole lot of movement, but that's okay. As the series goes on, we're going to get into how to allow it, how I first began experiencing energy moving through me in a way that caused automatic movement, as you might call it. And we'll dive into that as we go. Thanks a lot for tuning in.